So pleased to see you all here today. So pleased to see you all here. It's getting to become a regular thing. I thought about doing this a couple of weeks ago and then didn't. Rather than me taking the role of teacher, for lack of a better word, what is it that's of interest to you? What is it that's of interest to you in the Buddhist tradition, in the way we set up the Zendo, in the way we do our form? What is it that you sometimes scratch your head and say, "No, why do we do that? Where did that come from?" Things like that. Let's have a conversation. And I won't pretend to know all the answers, but I will pretend to know the answers. But this is an exotic form for some people. This is very new. All of us grew up in a Judeo-Christian home, Judeo-Christian community, and this clearly ain't that. This is something that has its roots over 2,500 years ago. This was ancient before Christ was born, this tradition. And so it's exotic, it's different. And to be expected to understand what you're doing or why you're doing it is unrealistic. So let's just take whatever time we want today and talk about the Buddhist tradition and the form that we use here, which is not the same form that we would see in every other temple, every other Sangha. This is our uniquely hollow bones Green Bay American Zen. There, I'm done. What comes to mind when I ask that?
I'm a huge fan of the Sutra book. I really think it does an amazing job of clearly giving the teachings. I don't know. I feel like it really speaks to me. So I'm a huge fan of the Sutra book. I think the one that sticks out to me the most is a Bodhisattva's vow. I can't think of it exactly, but just how it so clearly and succinctly describes what a bodhisattva of no rank is supposed to do. That's my favorite part every time. So that's what I have.
Thank you.
I'm curious why we have water on the altar, other than if you start your sleeve on fire.
That's it.
Okay, practical. Not that I've done that.
It has been done, yes. That's a great question. What's the answer?
I was thinking that it might have to do with the four elements, because you have fire, earth, water, and air with the incense, which is kind of Wiccan and a little bit more paganistic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very old.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Very old style. And the Buddha gets thirsty. And you notice that we always empty the water every day. Caden's gotten into that habit of taking that responsibility. And it also balances out the altar.
What got you into Zen?
I was raised Roman Catholic. That doesn't help? Oh. A bunch of heads nodded when I said that, so apparently I'm not the only one. Well, I'll just, my curiosity, I was well trained by nuns and priests when I was young. I appreciated the ritual of the church, the mysticism of the Catholic Church. When I was young, the church was all done in Latin, so it had even more of a mystical sense to it. And as I got older, I realized that it didn't make any sense. I don't want to make this about me. I could not at some point in my life reconcile the idea of a theistic God.
Well, we wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for you starting and leading this center. That's why I asked.
Well, how'd I, this?
Yeah.
Well, I had to do this. What a stupid question. I took Jukai with our abbot, and after a number of years, he said, I want you to start a Sangha. So I did. And people have come and gone ever since. I think we're almost 30 years now. And I have no idea how many people have come and gone, but Shunya's been around for 10, 11 years. George, you've been around for 6, 7 years. People come and go, and some people decide to stay. And my responsibility, my commitment is that I'm here. Just as when we were running in tight circles and the sky was falling back in the fall when COVID hit, there was talk about shutting us down. I don't know if you were a part of that, but
We came a little after.
and I sat on it for a while, and I decided that I would be here. And the people, whoever was in the room that day, I said, you don't have to come, but I'm going to be here. This is important to me. I can protect myself, and we're going to keep the candle lit. And we did. That's something. Nobody got sick. We made precautions, which are rapidly falling apart. Am I answering your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I did it because the abbot asked me to. That's the short answer. And it's been very interesting so far. So far. Got 20 years to go. 20 years to go. And people who are interested, whether you're brand new or a bit more seasoned, if you're interested in any of these roles here that people play, except this one, just let me know, or Shunya. Shunya's as well trained as I am. She knows all the roles and rituals very well. We don't have to have Caden in that role. We don't have to have. We can all get used to different things, so that when somebody misses a week or somebody has to be gone on vacation, we can slot somebody new in. So if you're interested, just speak up, and we'll work with you, help you understand what's going on. You can make all kinds of mistakes. You're allowed.
And Seisho has developed all kinds of wonderful cheat sheets for us, so you don't have to memorize.
He's very thorough that way. Let me say something about the sutra book. First of all, if you don't have one of the sutra books at home and you want one, take it. But if you take it, read it, cover to cover. There's a lot of material in there that we never touch here because we don't have time. But if you want a sutra book, take it. We've got more. And if you don't want to read it, bring it back. To really dive in deeply, there are sutras. There are quite a few major sutras. The best way I think to understand sutra is like a gospel in the Christian tradition. Sutras they're bigger, they're longer, they're stories, and they teach different elements of the tradition. There's the Heart Sutra, the Lotus Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, the Vimalakirti Sutra, and others I'm probably not remembering. But it's a way to really dive in deeply, and the language of a sutra, I think, gives a really nice flavor to what's going on here. It's very repetitive. It's a little, for me, it's always been a little hard to read because it's so repetitive, but it's also a good way for me to burn things into my memory because it's so repetitive.
Because of that, it was an oral tradition.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
originally, so that's why the repetition.
Yeah, thank you.
If I can make a recommendation, Red Pine is probably the best translation that it's recommended by the abbot, but it's very clear.
His Diamond and Heart Sutra are fantastic.
He does a nice job.
Yeah.
You've read both of those?
Yes, I have. I own a copy of both of them.
I have them in my library as well, if people would like to.
There we go. We got sutras coming out of our ears.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What does throughout the 10 directions end 3 times?
What are the 10 directions?
Yeah, and the 3 times.
What do you think the 3 times are?
Can I phone a friend?
Past, present, and future.
That's why I had.
The 10 directions.
That was the easy one. That's
what.
That's, yeah,
North, south, east, west,
Is it
north,
really?
north, and up and down.
up and down. Your current,
Well, if you're going up, you're going north. You're going down.
no, no.
What if you're at the North Pole?
Again, there's a real Wiccan feel to that too.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question.
It's not witchcraft. Well, maybe it is.
So, also being raised in a Roman Catholic tradition, the circle of life, as I like to call it, would have a birth, life, death, judgment, heaven, hell, a very linear progression. I think it may be helpful, at least for me, to have a breakdown of how that cycle is in the Buddhist tradition, because to me it feels much more cyclical, circling through the different worlds and whatnot. So maybe you could do a little compare and contrast.
Wars have been fought over that one.
I want the big questions.
Wars have been fought over that one. When I die, what's left? George, when you die, what's left?
I don't know. I have goosebumps though. I love questions like that. I have no idea, which is fantastic.
Not knowing.
Not knowing.
Caden, when you die, what's left?
Your action, your awareness.
Action,
Mm-hmm.
like ringing the bell,
Yes.
that's left.
Mm-hmm.
I rang that bell 10 minutes ago. It's not ringing now.
Sure. I
Somewhere in the universe it is.
Oh, you think so?
think so.
You think so? Do not rely upon thoughts, feelings, and emotions
That's physics.
which arise and fall away. As I think you know, there are many versions of the Buddhist tradition. And in some versions of the Buddhist tradition, particularly the Theravadan traditions, there's an emphasis placed on reincarnation, which is basically a Hindu idea brought forward because the Buddha grew up in a Hindu culture that had been around for 2,000 years. And this is my view. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid, although I'm right. When we say that sutra in the morning and we say no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, breath, no body, no mind, no thinking, no hearing, no touching, no tasting, well, what's left? Nothing. The argument is that the ego is a temporary manifestation of cause and circumstances. Your parents got together, did the nasty, sperm and an egg got together and made you. And over the course of your lifetime, you've developed personality and likes and dislikes, and your genetics has driven part of that, and here you are. And when you're dead, what's left?
But I don't want to be nihilistic.
But you're going to be.
I know. A lot of the stuff I've read says you have to find that balance. It's where it says the door of cause and effect is wide open. The truth is straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So energy, I think there's still, the whole idea of extinction, it's just, there's energy.
What is energy?
There's the energy of everything that I've created forward, and, Josie is Ricky's energy, his daughter. And then there's the energy that's moving forward in the world that's because of the impact of cause and effect. And I understand that I won't be here, but there'll be the impact of repercussions.
Well, there'll
of
be
my-
consequences of my behavior. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Some people will come to my grave and pee on it.
So we'll dance.
Some people will come and put flowers. But what's left of me? That's the question.
Well, I think my understanding, because for a long time I've suffered from existential dread and nihilism, and that's kind of what attracted me here in the first place. I was like, nothing. Yes, this is what I want. But what I found both here and in life is that there's a paradox. It is both everything and nothing simultaneously, non-dual. So therefore, that's how I escape the nihilistic trap and find meaning in life, is it is both everything and nothing simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Do you understand that? The non-dual idea?
I do.
Good. You can teach on that some night. So the question was relative to the Christian idea of coming back, of going somewhere. Your soul going somewhere to heaven, hell. I don't think we have purgatory anymore. I think they did away with that one. It's true. The Pope did away with that like 10, 12 years ago. My former mother-in-law was a very devout, elderly Christian woman, Catholic woman. She found out that he did away with purgatory. She was wild. She had all these years of belief just gone like that. So, that's very Buddhist. It's gone. My view is that we are empty. My view is that when we die, there is nothing that lives on, that goes on or comes back. There is the kind of things you're talking about. When I die, people will remember me. My son will. I have a child and 2 grandchildren, and so in that sense, that will go on. But John is gone. Vimala is dead. Dust. That's my view. You don't have to buy it, but that's my view. And I think that's a liberating idea. It says, let's get it together now. Let's make a difference now. Let's do good, open-hearted things now.
Yeah, live your best life.
Is that helpful? Helpful?
Can I add something to that, actually?
Of course.
I think what I really like about Zen is that it's many ways agnostic. that it's not recognizing that of a divine power, but it's not denying it as well. I appreciate that. And one thing that's really helped me is the parable of the poison arrow and the 14 unanswerable questions has really helped me. It's like, why are you focusing on these things? It's not important. I mean, why are you focusing on your death and all this other stuff when you could be focusing on doing your practice, living now? Has really helped me.
I'm guessing not everyone knows the parable of the arrow. Do you mind?
Yeah, it was, there was a monk that approached the Buddha and asked him these questions like, is the Buddha eternal or finite, or all these other questions about basically life after death. And the Buddha then said, well, he gave him a story that there was a man who was shot with an arrow, and people rushed to bring him to a doctor or something, but the man said, no, I want to know who shot the arrow, I want to know what the arrow was made out of, I want to know what the feathers on the arrow were made out of, the arrowhead and all these other things. It's like, well, these aren't helping you in the present moment. I mean, you just need to go and get it taken care of.
So these other questions, these esoteric questions, are interesting, but do they lead to happiness? Do they lead us to be kind, to live our best life, as Shinya said? Yeah, I've always liked that story too. Thank you. Do you all know who the big girl is up here? I'm always surprised that people don't ask. What is that? What is that? It's an alien. When you all leave, it disappears on Sunday. It goes poof, disappears. It's largely from the Tibetan tradition. That's called a Tara, T-A-R-A. And it's a representation of a part of each person. And I think there are 6 different colored taras.
Red, white, blue, there's a whole bunch of them.
Purple, there's different colored taras. And you notice that Tara appears to be a woman, but doesn't really, it's kind of an amorphic character. And there's stories told about that in the early days, Taras were I got ahead of myself. Taras represent the parts of you, parts of me. The green Tara is the compassionate, loving part of me, of you. I think the purple Tara is a healing Tara. So they all represent qualities that we all have. And way back when things were being organized, there were wars fought whether Tara was a man or a woman. And so they get in these vigorous arguments, and it's got to be a man. He can't have a woman with those attributes. So they gave it long hair and a nice figure and no breasts. So it's not really looks like a woman. It doesn't really look like a man. It's just a being. And it's also a handmade piece that was given to us by Jimpo that he acquired, I think, in Thailand. It's hand painted, and if you look someday and take a few minutes to study it, it's phenomenally detailed. It's amazing piece. So when you see the word Tara or hear the word Tara, that represents a quality of your life that we all have. And then there are a number of them. Is that enough? Are we done? You need your coffee? Everything's about coffee.